Hi everyone, listen up. In this tutorial, we're gonna be building an application that has feelings. Yes, you heard me right. This application is gonna have more feelings than some human. But kidding aside, this application can have sentiment, it can sympathize with you. And at the same time, it's so easy to build. And we're gonna be building a feedback form where user can input their text, we can analyze their text, and then provide according UI to the user. It's amazing, the users are gonna love it, and you're gonna love how easy it is to create. So let's start.
Code with Sloba.
Okay folks, the tool that we're gonna be using in this tutorial is this Eden.ai tool, basically. So we have a lot of features inside of this tool. So what you need to go is, you need to go to this app.edenai.run URL and make your account here. The link is going to be in the description box below, but it's free, you don't have to worry. You get like $10 credits, and making every request gets you like 0.01 cents, something like that. So you have a lot of credits to play around, so it's free basically. If you want to make something professionally, obviously you will need to get some better plan. And this AI tool has a lot of features for video, image processing, speech, but we're gonna use the one for text. We're gonna analyze the text from our users. And this is the sentiment analysis feature. So basically what we are going to be building today is we're going to be building a feedback page. So a lot of websites have this page where basically your user goes there and submits a feedback for some feature or general the website. And adding this sentiment analysis, we're going to understand what kind of feedback that is, if it's positive, negative, what is the state or feelings of the user, and actually we can provide a better user interface for our users. So that's amazing, that's awesome. And the best part is how easy this is to implement. So we have here boilerplate code that we're gonna use later, like for JavaScript, but let's do that a little bit later. So let's go to the CodePen. Again, I'm gonna be using CodePen, and actually on CodePen you can search for templates. You can search for like React templates, and I'm just gonna start from one like that. So I'm gonna find this React functional component example, and let's just create new template, or actually new pen. I'm going to remove all the CSS code, and let's just shrink it down because we're not going to use any CSS code. In the HTML part, we have this root div, and this is the only thing that we need for HTML inside of our React. So now let's do a little bit of cleanup. So let's remove these two functions. So this title and copy, because we don't need them. Let's remove these comments, and we also only are going to work inside of this app components. So another thing which I want to do is I want to include a bootstrap so we can style our application easier. So let's just go to the includes and let's just search for bootstrap like so, and let's just save and close it. So now we have bootstrap available here, and let's start creating. So let's create first the UI. We're gonna create first the title and the input field with a button where users can submit it. So let's create a first div. So actually, we have this div already. Let's just change the name to be a container. This is a bootstrap class, obviously, and let's add h1. So in the side of this title, we want to ask, or actually tell the user what we want to, ask them, or what kind of feedback we want. So let's say something like, "Hello, how do you like my website so far?" Something like that. And below that, let's add a row, or actually a div. We actually can, inside of this div, let's add, this is going to be a row, so let's add a class, a row, and let's add a column. So let's add a column, and let's make it full width. So let's add a column of 12, like so. And here inside of this column, let's add an input field. So inside of this input field, basically our users are going to be providing our feedback. Input is going to be type text. Let's add a class name so it's a little bit nicer. And here we're going to just add form control. So we apply some style. So let me just format this JavaScript like so. And let's add a placeholder, and let's say just type something like that. Now let's create a variable that can control this input field. So let's add here value, and let's provide create a new variable, and let's call it feedback. And here we're going to use the React useState hook to create it. So let's create a const, and we're going to destructure the array that we're getting from useState hook, and we're going to create new variable with a feedback name and the setter function to be set feedback. I'll just make sure it's camel case. And then we're just going to call react.useState like so. And it's going to be empty as initial state. Now let's format this file again. And what we're going to do is once we change the value in the input field, we want to update our function. So we're going to use this text to submit it to our API. Okay, so on change, we want to catch for the event. Let's just don't forget the equal sign. And then we want to call our setter function, which is set feedback like so. And instead of this set feedback, we want to access event.target.value. And now we should have the access to this feedback variable. Let's try it. So here, let's just put this variable inside of a template, feedback, and let's just now type just something. And you can see here, it's connected. So that works as expected. So now let's create next to our input field on this right side, I want to add a new button. So where user can click on submit, right? So let's add a button. And text just submit. Okay, now let's add a class name here, so it's not just this ugly button. So let's add a class name, and for the actual class, let's add a button and button dash outline dash secondary. These are obviously Bootstrap classes. We want to add a type to be button. You can see it's much nicer now. And we want to add on-click event handler. So once we click on this button, we want to make the API request and submit the form or actual input. So let's use the on-change or actually on-click event handler. And here we're going to just call the handle submit. So let's create that variable before, or actually that function before, so we can actually use it here. Because the editor is not allowing us with this error. So let's create a new function. So const handle submit, and now it's it's going to recognize it, and it's not going to give us this these problems. So we can here instead of handle submit. So what we're doing here is basically on click, we're just calling this handle submit arrow function that I created here. So I had to do that. I wanted first to create this name here and then create function, but error was in a way, so I wasn't able to do so. Okay, never mind. So here now, what we can do is we can make the actual API request. And then, but before we do that, actually, as you can see, our button is here below our input field, and I want it to be inline. So what we can do is we can add a new div. So here, let's add a new div to group these two elements together. So let's add a new div, and let's just take these two elements. Let's place it inside, and let's add a class name here, input dash group. And now it should be next to each other, and this is much nicer, at least for me. So now let's create another variable. We're going to use this second variable to store the feedback that we get from sentiment analysis. So let's call it sentiment, and let's update the setter function as well. Just make sure it's camel case like so. And now what we can do is we can actually go to add an IE, and we can use this boilerplate code. So I will just copy it, and we will update it because I don't want to use the Axios to do this. So I'm just going to update this. Let me just format the JavaScript. So remove the Axios. And what you need to provide is actually, okay, so in the options, this is the object that we're going to be sending with the request. And for the method, it's going to be post URL. We're going to provide in our fetch method. So let me remove it here. For the headers, we need to provide authorization, and we need our key. So instead of this, we need to copy our key. So where you find your key is you go to add an IE dashboard and go to the initial page, and you have this quick start, and you can just press this copy key button. So now it's copied to the clipboard, and you can just paste your key here. And now for the actual data, so we are providing here a body, not the data. So let me just update this to body. And here we need to provide a string. So we will use json.stringify method to convert this object to a string. Stringify, and then just provide this object as a parameter. So like so. And now a couple of things. So for the providers, you can actually select multiple providers. So as you can see here, if you go to the sentiment analysis, there are multiple providers that you can ask this analysis to do. So like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all these different, IBM even, all these providers do provide sentiment analysis. But using only one, it's enough for this tutorial. So for providers, we can just say like Amazon, like so. For the text, we're going to use the text that we get from the input field. So this is the name of the variable feedback. And for the language, we're going to use the English language here. And the another thing which we need to add is the actual, in the headers, we need to add what is the type of the content that we're sending. So we accept here, let's write accept, or actually the application accepts application.json. So application /JSON. And for the content type, it's also the same. So for the content dash type, it's the same, like so. And now let's make the actual fetch request. So we're going to use the same URL. So instead of the Axios, we're going to use the fetch because this is the built-in and we don't have to use any external libraries. And for the URL, we're providing this URL that we got from the boilerplate code. And as a second argument, we're providing the options object that we created here. So we are not sending that in the request here, but we are sending as a second argument in the fetch here. So what we get from the fetch, we get the response back, so called it then. And we need to convert that response to JSON. So response, and we just want to return response.json. So just convert the response to the JSON. And then when we get the JSON back, we actually get an object which has a property of the provider. So in our case, it's Amazon. So we're just going to log response.amazon. And let's update our sentiment function along the way. So here next to the console log, we can just call our setter function and just store what we have here in the Amazon, like so. And now let's try this if it works. So let me open up the console. Obviously, we need to clear it. Let's save, make sure we have the latest version. And let's try. Let's try something very simple. So how do you like on my website? It's great. And let's just submit this. And as you can see, we get a response back. So the status is success and the general sentiment is positive. General sentiment rate, it's 1. So using this sentiment rate, you can actually create a lot of emotions, or these are like variations from 0 to 1. There's a lot of different emotions that you can use to create different feedback for your user. But using this general sentiment, we get only three emotions back. And if I go to add an IE, so we have this example response. You can see that using this general sentiment, we have negative, positive, and neutral feedback. So we can use that to create a different UI. So let me just shrink down this handle submit, and let's use this sentiment variable now to create different feedback to our user. So now let's actually, when we get our feedback, we can hide this piece of the code, right? So let me just wrap that in a div, and let's just hide it. Okay, let's format it, and let's check if we get our feedback, hide this, and provide something to the user. So here, let's wrap this inside of a statement, and let's check here. If we don't have sentiment dot, make sure it's retrieved back, so this is not an empty object or empty variable, and we get back that general underscore sentiment. So if we don't have this returned back, we want to have this form. But let me just use the same variable. But if we have that feedback, let me again open up expression. We want to create, let's say, h3 title, and we want to say something like, thank you for your feedback, or something like that. So let's say exactly that. Thank you for your feedback. And let's say that this is the text that we want to display all the time when we provide when user provides a feedback. But now, depending on what kind of sentiment we define, we actually analyze in their text, we want to provide something more specific, like to see if they provided positive or negative feedback. So let's do that. So using this line of code, let's copy it 2 times, or actually just 1 for now. So let's check if the general sentiment is positive, is equal to positive. Then let's actually use the paragraph here instead of the h3, and let's say something like, I don't know, something like, I'm glad you like my website. Yay. So we are super happy. And what we can do actually as well, we can create another element here. Let's create a span, and we can add emoji. So it's a little bit more, you know, it resembles more to some feelings of the user. So actually I got to this emoji app, and you can find this on the wherever you want on the internet. So I will just copy this smiley, and I will just paste it here. So now let's actually try this. Let's provide some positive feedback to see if this works or not. So how do you like my website so far? It's great. Let's say something like, it's great. Very simple. And let's see what we get. Thank you for your feedback. I'm glad you like it. Yay. And we got this emoji. And what we can do, actually, we can even increase this emoji so we have a bigger effect. So let's add a class name. This is a bootstrap class again. And let's just write display-1. Not y, but 1, like so. And now let's provide UI for the other feelings as well. So let's add feedback if user writes a negative as well, and neutral one. So for neutral one, let's say, thank you for your feedback. I'll use it to improve my website. Something like that. And let's use the neutral emoji. So let's search for the neutral one here. Let's just copy it, and let's replace this smiley here. And for the last one, for the neutral, for the negative one. So what we want to say here is, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll work hard to make my website better. So you can see that we have this, you know, customized responses. So it's like you're talking, or actually you're submitting a feedback to the actual human being, right? So he knows what you're writing. So let's search for the sad emoji here. I'm not sure why it's adding emojis. Okay, but let's add a sad emoji here, like so. And now let's try this bad boy. So let me say this, and let's try. So let's try to add a negative feedback. It's okay, or like, let's write something more complex. Your website is okay, I guess, but I don't like how many bugs it has. And let's submit. Thank you for your feedback. I'm sorry to hear that. I'll work hard to make my website better. So here we get this meaningful feedback for the user. So let's refresh and let's try again. So let's try to add a neutral feedback. So let's write something like, you have a white theme only. So maybe I like dark theme more, and I just provide a comment what they have. So let's submit it. Let's see. Thank you for your feedback. I'll use it to improve my website. That's nice. And for the last one, let's use the positive. I mean, we used it already, but let's write something. This is the best website I've ever seen. And let's submit it. Thank you for your feedback. I'm glad you like my website. Yeah, and you can see how easy this is to build. And the purpose of this tutorial is just to give you an idea what you can build with these modern AI tools and how customized your website can be. They can understand what the user is submitting to them, what kind of feelings that they have, and you can improve the user experience for them. The only thing which is important in this is your idea. So if you have a great idea, these tools are amazing. So what we can build is up to us. That's it, guys. I see you in the next tutorial, and I hope you learned something new. Again, don't forget to subscribe and like my video. Bye. And if you want to support my channel and get a full source code of every single video that I'm doing, feel free to check out patreon.com/codewithsloba to get full access. See you there.
Well, that's all for this video.
And thanks for stopping by.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Code with Sloba.
Thank you for watching the entire video. To see more videos like this, click here.